Welcome back to the deep dive. So today, our mission is a little different, very high velocity. We're not doing the broad sweep of cloud news. Instead, we are drilling down into a really tight cluster of technical announcements from Azure, specifically everything that dropped in that two-day window, November 24th and 25th, 2025. And this one's not for the casual observer. This is aimed squarely at you. You know, the technically curious architect or engineer who really needs to understand the immediate, tangible impact of these changes across AI, networking, databases, all of it.
Exactly. And, when you look at a week's worth of updates, sometimes it can feel a bit random, like a scattergun approach. But inside this specific cluster, these 7 announcements, there's a really strong pattern emerging. What's fascinating to me is how these things that seem disconnected, like AI agents talking to MySQL on one hand and RDP security on the other, they all point toward this rapid consolidation of new technical capabilities across the entire platform.
And those patterns are absolutely crucial for anyone planning their next year of architecture. We're going to dig into 3 big shifts here that push toward AI-enabled database access, the mandate for managed identity, and some really deep gains in developer efficiency.
Yeah, if you're building on Azure right now, understanding these shifts is, I'd say, non-negotiable. This is the direction of travel for cloud engineering.
Okay, let's unpack this source material. We'll start where the most radical changes are happening, bridging those powerful AI models with our foundational data layers. First up, and this feels like a big strategic move, the public preview of Claude Opus 4.5 is now in Microsoft Foundry.
This is so much more than just a new model showing up. For an enterprise customer, this is a massive signal. The source tags this under AI plus machine learning and Microsoft Foundry. And look, we all know Microsoft has a deep, deep relationship with OpenAI. But by bringing a highly advanced, non-OpenAI model like Claude Opus 4.5 into Foundry, they're signaling a really aggressive multi-vendor strategy.
I wonder if that's aimed directly at enterprise concerns, about vendor lock-in, or being too reliant on just one AI provider.
Oh, absolutely. It has to be. It gives enterprise customers access to the specific strengths of a model like Claude, which the source notes sets a new benchmark, especially for complex reasoning, advanced coding, that sort of thing. For your data scientists and developers, it means they can adopt these powerful new tools right inside the Azure ecosystem they already trust. All the security and governance from Foundry is already there.
And that model capability ties directly into our next update, which connects the AI right to the core data infrastructure. Azure MCP Server for Azure Database for MySQL is now generally available.
Right, and this is where we go from the general power of a model to the specific protocol for data access. For technical users, the key here is the Model Context Protocol, MCP. I mean, we've been trying to solve natural language data access for years, right? With complex middleware, custom ORMs, and MCP wants to standardize all that.
So it's not just that the AI can now write a SQL query. It sounds like it's standardizing the communication channel between the AI's brain and the database itself.
Precisely. It's an abstraction layer. That's the perfect way to put it. It allows an AI agent to talk to MySQL using natural language. Not by, guessing the right SQL, but by using a standard protocol to pass context. The MCP server then translates that intent into a secure, optimized query. This just rips out a whole section of the development lifecycle, that part where you're handcrafting complex SQL just for an AI to consume. It's foundational plumbing.
Okay, so if AI is becoming a native access layer for our relational data through protocols like MCP, then the security around all that access becomes, it becomes everything, which is a perfect segue to the next big theme in these updates, centralizing identity.
A perfect segue, yeah. If you're going to expose data access to an agent, you have to enforce zero trust at the admin level, period.
And we've got 2 updates that really hammer this home. First, the public preview of Entra ID support for RDP connections. This covers Azure Bastion and also direct RDP connections to Windows VMs right in the portal.
This is a massive win for OPSEC and governance. Honestly, every sysadmin listening should be planning to implement this right now. We're finally moving away from managing local Windows credentials on each box. They're a nightmare to audit, to rotate, to secure. By enforcing Microsoft Entra ID authentication, you get 2 critical things. First, you shrink your attack surface by getting rid of all that credential sprawl. And second, you integrate RDP access directly into your main IAM governance.
Which means we can finally apply conditional access policies, MFA, all the robust audit logging. All the tools we use for our corporate apps, we can now point them directly at the act of logging into the server itself.
Exactly. The benefit isn't just a bullet point. It's an architectural shift. When your privileged access depends on Entra ID, you get to use policies that check if a device is compliant, if it's in the right location, if it's satisfied MFA. All of that happens before the user even sees the Windows login prompt. It's identity as the true perimeter.
We're seeing that exact same push for managed identity in network tooling, too. The public preview of managed identity support in Network Watcher. This is for VNet flow logs, traffic analytics, and packet capture.
Yeah, this is huge for compliance and just basic infrastructure hygiene. Remember what VNet flow logs are. They capture every single IP traffic flow across your VNets. They're your single source of truth for network monitoring and audits. And these logs get written to Azure storage accounts, often at a huge volume.
So traditionally, the Network Watcher service itself needed some kind of credential, like a key, to write to that storage account.
Precisely. A secret that had to be managed, protected, rotated. If that key gets compromised, an attacker could potentially tamper with your critical network audit trail. Now, with managed identity, the service principal is authenticated and authorized automatically by Azure itself. The platform manages the credential. It just eliminates a whole class of vulnerability tied to human error.
Right. If you can't trust the credentials that are writing your flow logs, you can't trust your network compliance at all. This shift, just like with Entra ID for RDP, it shows the platform is aggressively moving away from any kind of static infrastructure credential.
It is. It's a unified vision for a zero-trust infrastructure layer. It makes everything so much simpler. Instead of a vault full of secrets, you just manage role assignments. The whole thing is more secure by default.
Okay, let's shift gears completely. Let's look at developer tooling and global reach. We're moving from the security perimeter back into the app and data layers. Starting with a feature that, well, it's reached general availability, and it's a huge quality of life win for database developers. Native Regex support in T-SQL.
This is one of those updates that causes database developers everywhere to just cheer. We finally have powerful native regular expressions, regex, available right in T-SQL queries for Azure SQL and the upcoming SQL Server 2025. This is so big because it brings a standard, powerful pattern matching tool directly into the database engine where it belongs.
The source material talks about simplifying code and reducing dependencies, but let's dig into that. What are we actually shedding when we adopt native regex? What goes away?
We are shedding a ton of complexity and architectural baggage. I mean, think back. If you needed to do complex email validation or parse some weird log data you stored in a table, you had two really bad options. One, you pulled the data out and did it in your application code, which is slow. Or two, you had to write your own custom CLR functions in C# and deploy those assemblies into the SQL engine itself.
Ugh, and the headache with CLR, beyond just the security aspect, was the sheer deployment and maintenance complexity. It was always so delicate.
Exactly. The overhead was immense. Now, with native regex in T-SQL, you get transactional consistency. Your code becomes way simpler. And you know Microsoft is maintaining and optimizing the feature inside the query processor. For almost every use case, the trade-off is absolutely worth it for the simplicity and reliability you gain.
So it just instantly eliminates a whole layer of technical debt for anyone working with string manipulation. That's a huge boost.
It is. It's the platform saying, this capability is now standard, it's part of the core language, and we'll make it performant.
Staying with GA announcements, let's look at how the global infrastructure is maturing. Azure load testing is now generally available in Italy North.
This is that continuous, steady expansion of essential DevOps services. Azure load testing is critical. It's how you validate performance and scale before you go live. Making it available in Italy North means two things for customers in that region. First, lower latency for their tests because the load generator is physically closer to their app. And second, it helps with data residency. The test data can stay within that specific region.
It really underscores that cloud maturity isn't just about flashy new features. It's about making sure the core services are available everywhere for performance and compliance.
Exactly right. If you're running a mission-critical app in Italy, you want your performance testing rig to be there too.
And one final GA update on infrastructure, this one for hybrid scenarios. Azure File Sync is now in New Zealand North.
Yeah, Azure File Sync solves a really persistent problem for a lot of organizations. Those massive legacy on-prem Windows file servers. This service is so important because it lets you seamlessly tier data from those local servers up to Azure Files. The whole point is to keep the local performance and feel of that on-prem file server while offloading the bulk storage cost to the cloud.
So for the end user, nothing changes. They still see the local file share, but behind the scenes, only the hot, frequently accessed files are actually on the expensive local hardware.
That's the magic, yeah. It makes the hybrid use case just work. Bringing this to New Zealand North gives customers in that region a local data center option for their data, for resilience, for backup, for any geo-specific requirements they might have. It simplifies their cloud journey.
So to wrap up this last section, we're seeing the platform refining core languages, like with T-SQL Regex, while at the same time making sure its essential plumbing load testing, file sync is available wherever businesses need it. It's depth and breadth.
A very clear sign of a mature cloud platform, yeah. Prioritizing both developer power and global reach.
Excellent. So let's bring these 7 technical updates together for everyone listening. We saw these powerful shifts in the AI world, Claude 4.5 in Foundry, and the Model Context Protocol for MySQL. They're fundamentally changing how apps talk to data. We covered the non-negotiable security enhancements. Managed identity for Network Watcher and Entra ID for RDP, reinforcing that zero trust model. And finally, that refinement of developer tools with native Regex and T-SQL, plus that crucial global infrastructure expansion.
And this brings up a really critical architectural question for you to take away. Thinking specifically about that native Regex support in T-SQL. How will this one feature fundamentally change the way your team approaches complex data validation inside your stored procedures? And, more to the point, what legacy custom CLR functions or brittle application dependencies can you finally sunset because of this and reduce your architectural complexity almost overnight?
That is the ultimate test of modernization. Thank you for diving deep into these concentrated weekly updates with us. That's everything we had in the sources for this latest Azure deep dive.